Recent years have not been kind to the AAA game studios. For every critical and commercial success, there are two massive flops, and that's being generous. With those odds, AAA game studios are practically gambling every game they release, and they keep losing.
Aw, dang it. Aw, dang it. Aw, dang it.
But this is not the case everywhere in game development. In contrast to AAA, indie games can't stop winning.
I can't stop winning. I can't stop winning.
Of course, there's more to it than that. There always is. But that is what the general trend seems to be. But why? Why do indie games keep blowing up while AAA games languish? I have no credentials, or experience, or education to answer this, but I have a theory. And for YouTubers, that's good enough. This is why indie games can't stop winning. There are many reasons why indie games continue to succeed while AAA games are struggling. And a great way to illustrate this is by examining the archetypal indie game success of recent years, Balatro. The growth of Balatro is an inspiring tale, from an unknown indie game by a solo developer to punching far above its weight, winning award after award, and even contending for Game of the Year. Its critical and financial success surpasses even big budget projects from monolithic studios. Much of that can be attributed to it being a great game, but I think a large part of why it is great is one word: passion. Indie games like Balatro are made with more passion than your average AAA game. This is simply because the chances of an indie game succeeding are so much less than AAA. For every indie success story, massive or modest, there are hundreds of failure stories that we don't hear about. The nature of the work is also different. For AAA developers, it is a job, a 9 to 5, but an indie game might be a developer's whole life, their every moment caught in its web. To survive in that environment, you need passion for the craft. I know that goes against my argument that indie games can't stop winning, but it has to be said. Most indie games will not achieve the commercial success of Balatro or Stardew Valley. If you are developing an indie game to make money, you've picked just about the worst way to do that. The long, unpaid hours, the inherent financial risk you take, and most frightening of all, the chance that nobody even plays the game you make. The business-minded among us would look at that and say, no thank you, too risky an investment. Indie developers need something more than money to keep them in the game, pun intended. That being passion. You have to love what you do to keep going when the odds are stacked against you. YouTubers are very similar in that sense. Balatro is oozing with this iconic indie dev passion. You can see it in the little things, the satisfying animation when you play a hand, the delectable pixel art of each Joker, the subtle references these Jokers make for those in the know. It all adds up to make a game where you can feel the personal touches, and players are eating that up. I want to play a game that feels like someone made it, someone who cared about it, who put time and attention into crafting its systems to the best of their ability, and I believe a lot of other people feel the same. Of course, AAA games are not devoid of passion, nor do their studios lack passionate people. One need only look at the concept art. Here you see creativity, heart, soul, and personality. Even the biggest AAA flops have concept art that looks great. Like, this looks interesting. I'd play a game that looks like this. But by the time the game is released, this is all that is left. This concept art, made by artists who cared, is simplified, streamlined, and sanitized into a supposedly more profitable product. Yet it doesn't drive more sales. It just removes all the interest, the appeal that passionate art inherently has, making for a painfully monotonous and mediocre game that audiences reject. While passion is what motivates a successful indie game's creation, and is what gives the personality that players love, it is the small size of the dev team which retains that passionate vision throughout development. Let me explain. The developer who has the vision for the game, who has the passionate ideas for what the gameplay and art should look like, can be expected to work towards that vision throughout development. They know what they want to make. But when another dev joins and is told about the game's vision, naturally, some of it is muddied in this second developer's mind. Now, with a small development team, this isn't too big an issue. The first dev can re-explain and correct development to bring it back in line with the game's vision. but the more developers there are, the harder this becomes. Like a big game of telephone, the more developers an idea goes through, the more changed it becomes. This can explain why the passion seen in the first concept art of AAA games is lost by their release. These studios have hundreds of developers. Nuance is going to be lost going from point A to B. It's not impossible for large AAA studios to keep their passion and vision intact. It is just more difficult. No wonder then that some of the best AAA games that have come out in living memory have had very skilled and dedicated directors. They managed to keep the passion throughout development, despite its challenges. Sadly, not every AAA game is so lucky. By contrast, indie games can implement their grand vision with precision because it is easier for them to do so. They have smaller dev teams, or just one dev in the case of Balatro. Too many cooks spoil the broth. By keeping development teams small, often by necessity, indie devs can focus on the fundamental vision, retain their passion, and make better, more engaging games. Games players love. Another reason why indie games keep winning is that they focus less on profit and more on crafting the game they want. I mentioned previously that indie developers are driven by passion, not money, and that extends to the development choices they make. It's no secret that the indie scene is more experimental. Balatro is a poker roguelike. When have you ever seen something like that before? And its closest peers are all fellow indie games. It exists in a world of its own. A game like Balatro could never be made in a AAA studio because there's no money in it. There is no precedent that a poker roguelike would be profitable, so they don't make it. Even Balatro's dev didn't expect many people to buy it. Innovative ideas are pushed out in favor of the tried and true, the hottest trends, the profitable ideas. It works until these trends are milked into oblivion and are rejected by your audience. Concord is the clear example here. A hero shooter in 2024, and a mediocre one at that. Exactly what people are tired of, and so no one played it. But Balatro, its idea is fresh, unique, interesting, and so it sells. The developer believed in the heart of the cards, that his niche idea would be great. That is why indie games keep winning. They bring something new to the table. Who cares if it's niche? It's different. And I believe that is what people want. In contrast, AAA games are losing because they keep getting caught up in what they see as the moneymakers. The in-game cash shop, battle passes, and the cinematic universe. They want to reap the benefits of these before they actually make the game and build an audience to engage with it. Those parts only make money when the game itself is popular. As the kids say, just put the fries in the bag. And that's exactly what the indie scene is doing. Not just any fries, but the good ones, the crispy ones, like the sea salt fries Wendy's used to have, when you could still sit down and enjoy them within the atmosphere of their sunroom. I may be generalizing, but indie devs are more focused on the fundamental gameplay of their games, the metaphorical taste of their fries, not on the extra parts tacked on to make money, and they are being rewarded for it. Balatro, which is nothing but gameplay, has survived and thrived, succeeding far past its initial scope, while games like Concord no longer exist. With that, I hope I was able to explain why indie games can't stop winning and AAA games can't stop losing. It all comes down to quality. Despite the difference in budget and size, indie games have produced higher quality gameplay experiences recently than AAA games have. Balatro focused on what matters and was motivated by what matters. AAA, meanwhile, has lost itself in the business side of things. Yes, game companies need to make money, but they forget that to do that, they first need to make good games that people want to play. If you made it to the end of this video, please consider liking and subscribing.